Welcome to the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the podcast 10 for 10, which brings you the week's top 10 compliance stories curated together in one podcast each week. Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, brings you the compliance professional stories you need to be aware of at the end of your busy week. Sit back and in 10 minutes, hear about the stories every compliance professional should be aware of. Every Saturday, 10 for 10 highlights the most important news, insights, and analysis for the compliance professional, all curated by the voice of compliance, Tom Fox. Get your weekly filling of compliance stories with 10 for 10. Hosted by Tom Fox. 10 for 10 is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. 10 for 10 for the week ending April 12, 2025. We open with a series of stories on the Trump tariff roller coaster, where he imposed huge tariffs on countries across the globe, and then, of course, 48 hours later, rescinded those tariffs and what that did. But it did a lot, and there's a lot that compliance needs to think about. So we begin with first story from the Wall Street Journal that China has readied a trade war arsenal that takes aim at U.S. companies. This is no surprise at all, but Beijing has built an arsenal of tools to hit the U.S. where it hurts, and it started deploying these. It obviously increased the tariffs on U.S. goods and added 6 U.S. companies to a trade blacklist and imposed export controls on a dozen American companies. Its broad set of countermeasures provoked Trump even further, and it will just be tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. Next up from the New Republic, or what used to be called the New Republic, now TNR, it asks about Trump's whiplash and whether that was open corruption. Many have speculated that his signal to the market that now was a great time to buy was because he was about to rescind all of the tariffs, which he did 48 hours after levying them. And TNR reports that, quote, Trump may have accidentally confessed to insider trading and market manipulation on Truth Social by saying it's a great time to buy. This was, of course, before announcing his suspension of the tariffs. Next up, also from the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. Department of Justice has scaled back crypto enforcement. Of course, this is consistent with all of the Trump administration's but actually cutting back on anything that would help law enforcement with money laundering or AML or anti-corruption, and allowing crypto to go basically uninvestigated is a portent for disaster because of the corruption and money laundering used by many nefarious actors around cryptocurrency. It's certainly going to scale back prosecutors' ability to bring criminal charges, and the department has announced they will no longer bring charges in this arena. So it underscores the DOJ's move to align with Trump's affinity for crypto products, and it's going to be interesting to see how the bad guys take advantage of this going forward. Next up, from Reuters, Trump's attacks on U.S. law firms have been decried by major companies who use these law firms to represent them. 67, mostly former general counsels, said Trump's orders against law firms violate the Constitution and hijack the relationship many companies have with their outside counsel. You know, that's a First Amendment issue of free association. In a friend of the court brief designed to support Perkins Coie, the amicus said that this threatened long-standing relationships. Trump issued similar orders against a number of law firms, and those are in various states of settlement, negotiation, or litigation. Next up, HBO is having a documentary which looks at the Ohio bribery scandal as a case for dark money corruption. The documentary is two-part called The Dark Money Game, and it examines the influence of dark money, focusing on the scandal in the Ohio House and House Speaker Larry Householder. Next, we have two stories about whistleblowers. The first one comes to us from Bloomberg, which reports that a Meta whistleblower told Congress that the company, formerly known as Facebook, aided China in its AI race. Sarah Wynne Williams testified before Congress that the social media giant threatened U.S. interests while cozying up to China. She served as director of global policy for the company until she left in 2017, and she told the Senate committee that she witnessed executives undermining U.S. security. They offered censorship tools to China and helped the country advance its intelligent AI arms race. She said Meta started briefing the Chinese Communist Party as early as 2015, and these briefings focused on emerging technologies, including AI. Our second story comes to us from the Houston Chronicle, which reports that a Travis County judge has awarded $6.7 million to four whistleblowers who were fired after they reported Attorney General Ken Paxton to the FBI for alleged corruption. A judgment entered by the court said that Paxton had violated the Texas Whistleblower Act by firing employees in retaliation for their allegations that he had abused office to help a campaign donor. The biggest significance of this is the allegations were never proven in a court of law. So this is a very good protection for whistleblowers in Texas, an excellent ruling by the court. As you may guess, Ken Paxton is crowing and howling and screaming that all of this was false and fake news and lots of other things, but got nailed on this one. Next up, from Forbes, how to shut down office drama. This is certainly something that every compliance officer needs to have in their arsenal, as the psychology of workplace drama increases stress, decreases engagement, lowers in productivity. It's actively harmful. Emotional overreactions create confusion, amplify negativity, and derail meaningful work. But if you can handle dramatic interactions correctly, you can stop all of the drama in the tracks. How do you do so? Well, the authors report that drama survives on emotion, and it escalates when people react with shock, frustration, or sympathy, because these reactions validate the dramatic person's perception of the situation. Humans are wired to respond emotionally to unexpected events, but in the workplace setting, this instinct can sometimes cause unnecessary chaos. So, how do you do this? This is a great article for every compliance professional to take a look at. Next up, Huawei is in big trouble in the EU. As reported by Bloomberg, Belgian authorities have charged 8 people so far in corruption in connection with a probe. They're charged with corruption, money laundering, and participating in a criminal organization. Police have conducted searches across Belgium and Portugal, arresting a number of people over allegations dating back to 2021 and suspected corruption at the EU. So the illegal activities of Huawei at least have been charged in the EU. And our final story comes to us from the Cayman Compass, which reports that police have identified the person in a burning car on the island as the head of the Cayman Islands anti-money laundering division. So whenever a government official like this is found under suspicious circumstances, the conspiracy theories start, and when the head of AML is found dead, maybe murdered, then you can see where all of this is going. Have a great weekend. This is Tom Fox again. 10 for 10 is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. I'd also urge you to check out the Daily Compliance News, which posts every week from Monday to Friday, where I give 4 curated stories of bribery, corruption, and compliance events that will allow you to help you start your day as well. So check out the Daily Compliance News and subscribe or rate and review to both 10 for 10 and the Daily Compliance News. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency. Finally, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, I am preparing a new season of Adventures in Compliance where I go through the 4 novels of Sherlock Holmes. Hear it on the Compliance Podcast Network.